Hello and welcome to Rada Reviews. I'm your guest host this week, Rob. Mike and I switched channels temporarily, so if you want to see him, you have to go over to my channel where I've got him locked up doing an exploitation film. Oh yeah, pretty fun. But no worries, horror fans. I'm here with a classic horror film for you, 1980's Fade to Black, starring Dennis Christopher as a film-obsessed cinephile who dresses up as some classic horror characters and kills a bunch of people. Yeah, super fun. Although, now I kind of wonder why Mike had me watch a movie about a cinephile who kills people. Oh well, I'm sure it's nothing. Meet Eric. He loves movies, he sleeps in his clothes, and he lives with his aunt. So yeah, he's got life pretty well figured out. Unfortunately, his aunt doesn't like him very much. In fact, no one likes him very much. His co-workers bully him, his boss has nothing but contempt for him, and women think he's a creep. So, perhaps not by choice, he's a lone wolf. A wolf in geek's clothing. One day, he meets a woman who is the spitting image of Marilyn Monroe, and he becomes quite taken with her. And she's quite taken with herself, so she appreciates that someone has the same taste in women. Wait, that sounded weird. How about this? She's a vacuous starlet who is more than happy to fill her empty existence with Eric's admiration. No, that's too mean. Okay, how about this? She, likes that Eric, likes her and thinks that's, pretty cool and all, because she, likes herself. Yeah, nailed it. She even agrees to go out with Eric, but she gets distracted by another guy showering her with praise and stands him up. Eric doesn't really take it very well. I mean, who would? Getting stood up sucks. Oh man, I could tell you a story. Anyway, Eric goes home to cheer himself up with, you guessed it, a movie, but his aunt has had enough of these movie shenanigans and she busts in the room and busts down his projector and damages his print of the movie. And it is this, his aunt destroying his projector and ruining his print, that sends him over the edge. So he sends her over the edge. Bye-bye, Auntie. And now, a half hour into the movie, we get the scenes that people remember from this movie. Well, not me. I just watched this movie 2 days ago. But, people. Eric dresses up as some of his favorite characters from movie history and goes out to get revenge against those who have done him wrong. Nice. And so you can see that Scream was not the first slasher film that had a killer inspired by the movies. All of Eric's costumes look amazing. His Dracula, the mummy, this weird cowboy thing, super cool, and those scenes are super fun. And none of this is spoilery, by the way. All of these characters are in the trailer. And on the box art of the Blu-ray. But that's enough out of me as far as plot goes. Let's talk some highlights. Well, if you're something of a cinephile like me, there's a lot of fun to be had here, watching all of the references and quotes and costumes and even clips from old movies. That's a lot of fun. And it's not just the obvious stuff either, but there's some rather oblique references to some classic movies. Yeah, pretty cool. But aside from this fan service, I know that's something different. Aside from these little hints and clues and references for movie fans, you gotta give it up to Dennis Christopher. I mean, he really turns in a stellar performance here. A lesser actor could have easily dipped into parody and gone over the top with some of these impressions, but not him. He plays it just reserved enough to be effective without being too indulgent. Yeah, pretty good. Actually, more than pretty good. But as much as I liked his performance, and as much as I liked the idea for this movie, and as much as I like those same old movies that Eric does, I don't like this movie very much. Like a lonely geek staring at a Marilyn Monroe poster, this film has some shortcomings. First off, there's this whole police procedural aspect of this film that I haven't even mentioned yet, and I didn't even need to mention it because none of it plays any essential role in the film at all. Seriously, you could cut out every single scene in this movie that has police in it, or the police's new, crime psychiatrist or whatever, and the film would play out exactly the same with a few, very minor things that could have been fixed anyway. And the fact that this movie is already a bit longer than it needs to be at 1 hour and 42 minutes, they really should have just got rid of all this stuff, and then the film could have moved quite a bit faster. Further, having the psychiatrist subplot in there, it kind of lends credence to this theme in the movie that the movies themselves are somehow responsible for what Eric is doing, and I don't really like that idea very much. Obviously, I don't think the movie is weaker because it explores an idea that I don't like very much, but, you know, if you're going to have a movie that sort of appeals to cinephiles, why would you want to make cinephiles feel bad? It's kind of an odd choice. And, you know, it's just kind of sad in general that as a movie fan, as a horror movie fan, as a violent video game fan, as a Marilyn Manson fan, the media would never explore all the good reasons I might have to kill someone. Or something like that. But even aside from all that, I guess the main reason I don't much like this movie is, well, as a cinephile, I've seen movies do what this movie tries to do better. A lot better. Most slasher films follow the victims around, and, you know, those are the big classics, Friday the 13th and Halloween, you know, we've seen all of those. There are some slashers, though, like Fade to Black, that follow the slasher around. The first of these was probably Peeping Tom in 1960, but there's been a few other notable entries over the years, including one of my favorites, Maniac, which came out the same year as Fade to Black, 1980. And slasher films that follow the slasher around succeed or fail based on how compelling, or dare I say sympathetic, that slasher is. Peeping Tom works because it humanizes and engenders our sympathies towards the slasher, which is really messed up, actually. He stabs women to death and takes pictures of their fearful, dying faces, and we, the audience, still end up feeling sorry for him. Yeah, pretty cool. And in fact, that's one of the reasons the film wasn't very successful during its time and ruined the career of its director. But we can watch it now and have fun. And a film like Maniac works not because we feel sympathy for Frank Zito, but just because it's so dirty and sleazy. Some of us like to feel dirty. And of the two ways to follow a slasher around, Eric here in Fade to Black is much more like Mark Lewis in Peeping Tom than he is like Frank Zito in Maniac. But, you know, the character that Eric really has the most in common with is Carrie from Brian De Palma's film, Carrie. Both Carrie and Eric were bullied inside and outside of the home and eventually snap with bloody results. The difference, though, is I really felt bad for Carrie and was able to see her as a victim. I mean, she's so sweet and innocent and kind, and Sissy Spacek just, you know, she really just makes us feel for that character. And I never really felt for Eric. I mean, of course, I didn't think he deserved to get the kind of bullying he was getting, but his kind of smug geekiness with his coworkers and, you know, social awkwardness with Marilyn and his complete incompetence at his job, I mean, it really didn't put me on his side. Not entirely. I mean, and you add this sort of lack of sympathy with the main character to the fact the film runs a bit long and has a completely pointless police procedural subplot, and the film just kind of falls short for me. I know the movie has its fans, and I totally get why they might be its fans, but I'm not one of them. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had fun, and I promise I'll return Mike to you soon. In the meantime, be sure to follow his sage advice. If you want to watch a horror film, first make sure it's good and rotted. Did I do that right? No? I'll try again. If you want to watch a horror film, first make sure it's good and rotted. Better? I think that's as deep as my voice will go.